Welcome to the Cherland podcast, where I, Connor Cherland, meet up with a musician, figure out what makes them tick, what kind of life experiences they're bringing into their music. And on today's episode, we have Natalie Carol, lead singer from Valley Queen. This conversation was so fun to have. We talk about one of her favorite authors, we talk about the importance of good communication and fighting, and then we also talk about the importance of feeling your feelings and putting them into songs. So please enjoy this conversation with Natalie, also known as Valley Queen. Thank you so much for wanting to chat. It's been a real pleasure listening to your music and listening to your other interviews and reading about you in the last week. It's been very fun. I like your music, which is very, very nice. I wanted to start off with you talking about Marion Woodman. Out of all the books that you've read, seems like you've read at least 6. I want you to give me your top recommend and why, or your probably this isn't for you and why.
Oh, what a good question. And you're the only person that has brought up Marion Woodman in an interview, so I commend you for that. I feel like she's like a fairy godmother, literary fairy godmother of mine. So, top 6 books that I recommend?
No. So you it seems like you've read over 6 at this point.
I've read over 6 books in my life, yeah.
Over 6 Marion Woodman books.
Oh, yes, I have.
Yes. So, out of those 6, rather than talking about each of them, what would be the one that you would most highly recommend, and what would be the one that you would probably be like, this one you can avoid if you need to?
I would recommend The Ravaged Bridegroom.
Ooh, that's a great title.
She's a psychologist. Marion Woodman is a Jungian psychologist, and she passed away a few years ago, but she left a plethora of resources. I think it's really based in the feminine, and something that I think that she tries to do is merge the archetypes of the mother and the whore, and that's something I'm trying to merge in myself as well, both the nurturer and the deeply sexual person. There's just a lot of healing. There's another book of hers called Leaving My Father's House, the connection that women have with our dads. It's just deep. It's a deep dive into your own psychology and questioning your own psychology and questioning the archetypes that are at play inside of us all the time. Yeah. So, yeah, I would recommend those 2. I don't think there's a book of hers that I would say don't read. I think for men and women both, she's talking about the feminine, but there's a woman in all of us. Any Marion Woodman is going to be a good idea, I think.
You say that she's a fairy godmother type. Why have you found her work so important in your own life?
Yeah, like a literary fairy godmother. I don't know if you've ever felt that way reading a book where you feel this dimensional quality about it, where you're like, I feel like I'm talking to you. I feel like you're in the room telling me this. And especially with Marion Woodman was writing well into her 70s. I get a lot out of reading the writings of women that are older than me or have passed on. And I think books are so transcendent in that way. So when I say literary fairy godmother, it's just I feel like she gets to still speak to me and whoever picks up her books from the beyond. That's kind of how I think of it, and I think that's the magic of books. It feels like they're there when the book is really good, you know.
Mm-hmm. That's amazing. You talk about Joseph Campbell calling songwriters the modern myth makers of our society, and building a mythology, building a storyline that people can get behind. There are a lot of different storylines. Yesterday I watched a rap video of just a guy drenched in milk with a bunch of cereal and rapping about the women he gets, and I was like, oh, this is a mythology that he's creating, and it definitely says a thing. And I was curious about what kind of mythology and what kind of story you're trying to create on your end.
That's, wow, Connor, what a good question. So what mythology am I making?
Yeah.
Is that what you're asking? Oh, oh my God, that's such a cool question. And I don't know if I know the answer. I think I just want to allow things, I'm writing on a song by song basis, and it's all so feeling based. And I want to allow those feelings. I definitely work with symbols, and I'm very tied. I have like a lot of my own personal rituals that I think are probably incorporated into my writing. There's like a lot. I think I play with like pagan symbols a lot. I feel like I'm kind of I'm a very I don't know. When you bring up that I mentioned Joseph Campbell and Marion Woodman, maybe I'm not so closeted, but I feel like I'm a pretty closeted, like deeply spiritual person. And I think the place where that comes out is in my songwriting. I feel like I'm kind of reaching for, I'm always reaching for like a transcendent or a beyond experience. I'm interested in playing with, I think music creates the possibilities of being able to connect with each other and reach each other in sonic waves and things that we're not even really we can't really see. So maybe hopefully I'm creating a mythology of sound. Hopefully I'm creating some kind of connection through sound. As far as I don't know what myth is being created. I think a lot of times you follow your heart and you follow where you're being pulled, and you look back and you're like, well, check that out. I was kind of in the middle of that and I didn't know it at the time, but something emerges and you don't really witness it until after.
Yeah. Since you can't see me, I'll tell you I was smiling during a lot of the answer.
Oh, good, because you're frozen and your lips are kind of pursed and you're like frozen and you're like, I don't get it.
Oh man.
Transcendence,
okay. Well,
what?
Just so you know, my approval face is what is on.
Okay.
So there's whatever's on the screen, I'm sorry. But I love your imagery. I think I was listening to the Supergiant song this entire week, and it got me every time. I mean, you continue to talk about this garden, you continue to talk about heaven and the idea of something being there and then it being gone. In other interviews, you talk about the relationship between writing and pain. What is writing's relationship for you with pain?
I mean, hopefully transformation, right?
Yeah.
We're all trying to dig ourselves out of a lot of suffering, I think, all the time. And I think we're constantly reaching for sources of relief. I know I am. I've really been thinking a lot recently how much I just want to numb out completely and not feel anything and just let oblivion take over. But that is like, unfortunately, from my experience, that makes it far worse. And we have to figure out some way. Oh, no. Are you
can
still there?
see you. No, I'm good.
Oh, now I'm not frozen.
Hey.
I see you. Woo! I'm not frozen anymore. I'm not numb.
Yeah.
So, what was the question?
We got so excited.
We did.
A relation. You were talking about oblivion,
pain.
relationship to pain. Yeah.
Yeah, I think. I think songwriting gives me an opportunity to feel what I feel. And I think I think we all do. I think I set up mechanisms throughout my day just to not feel at all. And that is like a really dangerous place to be when we're really just trying to cut off all connection. And I understand why. It's like feelings suck. Feelings are scary. You don't know when they're going to end, And like they're so hot and visceral when you're like in really intense feeling states. So it's like, I don't want to feel this. I want to go watch The Bachelor or something and just completely like forget about it. But it always comes out in one way or another. So I think songwriting has given me a gift to allow myself to just explore what I'm really feeling and put a sound to it and put words to it. And then it changes. And then you give it to people, you perform it, and then it resonates with people, and then they swallow it, and then they appreciate that you articulated it, and then they give love back. So there's a healing mechanism in it. And I know that sounds obvious and trite, but it's been a radical experience for me, and it's changed my life.
What other mechanisms do you find in the day that are keeping you away from your emotions?
Ooh, so many things. What keeps me away? Doing. Honestly, like when I have work, when I'm working, I'm shutting out my emotions pretty much. Yeah. When I'm trying to get things done, even in your doing, you can still be like, I'm here. Mm-hmm. I'm aware, like, where is my body? How does my body even feel? How do I even feel? But what shuts my emotions out? I don't know, like getting really jacked on caffeine and then like getting everything done on my to-do list. Like, I'm not always present there. Yeah. I'm productive as hell. I'm a very productive person, but I'm not always like aware in that.
Yeah. Do you feel like that's bad? That sounds like a good thing for certain hours of the day.
Sometimes you need those things. You need something. Like we can't sit around and feel all day.
Right.
So it's not bad. It's not even necessarily a bad thing, but just recognizing when I'm trying to check out of something.
That's interesting. When you neglect your feelings for long enough, do you feel like a song forces its way out? Or do you... Okay. Yeah.
Either that or I get really angry in an interpersonal communication and I'm like, whoa, like she's pissed. What? Like it'll come out in some other form. But yeah, I think, it can lead me into songwriting if I try to check out for long enough. Yeah. I gotta go like figure it out somewhere for sure.
And if you're entirely overwhelmed with an emotion, like you're in it and you can't see a way out, do you feel like you have an easier time writing about it then? Or once you've like dipped out of it, then it's easier to write about it?
I think it's easier to write about it then.
When you're in it? Or when Okay, yeah.
When I'm in it.
Yeah. Speaking of the relationship to writing and pain, you have a history of teaching writing to incarcerated youth. Why did that start? What led you to that? And like kind of what role has that served in your life?
I actually, if you want to know like the true origin, so I started working for a nonprofit called Right Girl. And I've been working for them over the past 5 years. How did I get involved in that? Okay, so if you want to know the real story, I was working in a restaurant in Santa Monica, and there was a regular in the restaurant, and he has his own nonprofit, and I totally, like, I fell in love with this man. Like, I was so in love with him. He was so giving and compassionate and sweet. And we had like a little thing going on, just some kind of alchemy between us. But he was like 20 years older than me.
Nice.
But he placed something in my heart with like how compassionate he was. And he was flying all around the world, like giving clean water to people. And I was I was just like overwhelmed by his heart. And honestly, I think he's what inspired me. Nothing ever happened between us, but I think he's what inspired me to go and like think about somebody else other than myself. And that's probably why I fell in love with him. And I think that's probably why he was put in my life in whatever universal cosmic way you want to think about it. Because, after that relationship that I had with this person, I felt like this nonprofit opportunity got sat in my lap, and I started this dialogue with incarcerated kids, 13 to 18 years old who have lived very different lives than me and know a lot more than me in a lot of capacities. So I've been a real student, and I feel like that work that I've been doing has been very much a gift to me, maybe even more than the kids, with how much I feel like those children have taught me,
Yeah, what's one of the lessons they've taught you?
Well, I just think, so we create creative writing circles, right? And we really just encourage them to, we just set timers for writing. We have various prompts that we do, various exercises, various structures that we work with. But really, we just encourage to just fill up the page and become uncensored. And just the beauty, these kids come from severely traumatized situations. And they're just so resilient. There's just so much beauty that comes from those things. I mean, if you want to talk about transforming pain and using writing as a conduit to do that, these kids are the ultimate wizards with that stuff. When you feel like there is a dynamic of trust and a dynamic of listening and there's compassionate ears around you, then some real wisdom can come out of these kids' pencils. You kind of have to be there to know, but yeah, there's a lot of wisdom that comes out of these underserved backgrounds. Hopefully, what we're trying to do is give them some kind of inner scaffolding through writing to be able to deal with, they're in the system and then they come back. It's like I see a kid in the system, and then 2 years later, I go to another program at a different camp, and they're there again. And how are they supposed to deal with that? So pencil and paper is a pretty simple answer. It doesn't solve everything, but I know that's helped me. So hopefully we give that to them. That's not what your question was, but that's where we landed. Yeah.
I'm totally fine with that. While we're circling writing and pain and song, again, I really love the song Supergiant, but I'm not one of the people who reached out and asked, requested a song. So if you want to play a song, now's a great time.
Oh, okay. I can play Supergiant, but I have it in a different tuning for another request.
Sure.
So I'm going to play a song called Highway Pearls first, which
Great.
I haven't played in over a year. But
you're going to do great.
We reviewed the chords. You sat here as I reviewed my chords, so...
I won't hang my head on
that is
It's so good.
Inky Hands for Life. That one's for you. She's like our #1 fan, and she sent me art, and she's flown out to our shows like all over the country. So I really appreciate her, and she requested that song, so that one's for her.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Man.
Oh.
Yeah.
So Super G, is that the other request?
Yeah. I mean, you don't have to do it right now. We can keep talking, or you can play it right now if you want. Yeah.
No. Let's keep talking. What else you got?
Great. Yeah.
I'm gonna take my mic away.
Yeah. It's reverbed out right now.
Yeah.
So with like writing and pain and music, 2020 is a great transition topic. So you had a bunch of great tours planned, and then had to pivot and immediately started like going back into the studio as soon as it was safe, and like started writing new stuff. And what has recording and releasing music been like in COVID for you?
Yeah, I mean, I think, and I've heard other artists say this too, but it's been a forced incubation period. Yeah, so we've slowly started recording the second record, but oh my God, there has been so many delays, and it has been such a slow process. And as somebody who, I work pretty fast, I'm like a first thought, best thought kind of gal. And like when I have an idea, I'm like, ooh, let's go. Yeah. Just go. And that does not work. That did not work over this past year.
Yes.
So, and that's probably a good thing for me to have had to slow down. So I moved into my own apartment over the course of quarantine. And so I've been living alone here in this small yet quaint studio apartment that I love. And honestly, like, I have had a really connected time here. I feel, touring, I mean, if you want to talk about numbing out of feelings, touring is where we all love to go do that.
Yeah. And
I mean, you're feeling feelings on stage, but you're just constantly moving to where it's really hard to keep a finger on the pulse of how you feel a lot of times. And towards the end of it, we've been touring for about like 4 years now, like pretty consistently. Like, we'll spend some time at home and all of that. But towards the end of it, before shutdown, I'm like, what am I doing this for again? Because I'm wearing myself out. Like, I think I love it, but I'm not always in the heart space of loving it. I'm like, I can really get into a heart space of just doing it. Mm-hmm. So I think over the course of this year and not having to be anywhere, it's allowed me to be able to just make music for myself and really rediscover that I just love music so much. And again, I know that sounds trite, but like, it's just why I'm here. And it's just coming, it was just reconfirmed to me because, you don't make a lot of money in this stuff. And it's like, the whole industry is a huge scam. And it's insane to continue to do it. But it's like, you know what? Like, it's how I function being here. And it's like the space that I can make for myself that like lets me feel okay and not want to die. Yeah. So it's like, I'm just going to keep doing that. And it can be that simple, It's like... Yeah. And I'm really realizing that in my behavior. It's like, even on nights where I'm not spending my nights performing in front of people, I'm still plugging in my amp. I'm still putting my mic through my amplifier, even if I'm just singing karaoke. It's like, well, it just seems like Natalie's going to do this, Like, sometimes you can just, like, back out of your ego for a second and be like, Natalie just does this. This is just what Natalie does, and I think I just need to let Natalie do this for the rest of her life, and that's okay, Like, I think I feel really blessed that I have something that I love to do that much, and that in itself is a huge gift. Like, I'm just gonna let that guide. As crazy as that can be sometimes, I think this year has just like reaffirmed, just let it guide. It's what feels good, so you should just do that. It can be that simple. you know? So this year has been really valuable in that way for me.
Quarantine has been so interesting to watch because so many people have to question everything they've ever done. Like, why am I married to this person? Why do I live here in this town, in this house with this mortgage? Why do I do this job? And all of those things are being formed into question. So people are moving, people are quitting careers, people are getting divorces.
Yeah.
And people are also getting married, but it's like, it's really cool when you in quarantine realize that actually I just want to keep doing what I've been doing, even if it's just for myself. It means that you probably were a little bit burnt out on the thing, but it's still the right thing is what it means. And that's really special. So congratulations on finding that out during this time.
Yeah. Well, thank you.
Yeah, you said that the industry's a scam. Say more.
I mean, you play music, right?
Yeah.
You know?
I don't disagree with you. I just want to hear you say it.
I mean, it's just because we all love doing it so much, and it's like, as Gillian Welch said, and everything is free now. It's like somebody figured it out that we're going to do it anyway, even if it doesn't pay. And man, is that not the truth? It's just like, we love to do it, so we're just going to do it for free. And we do it for free a lot of the time. Yeah, I mean, we could get into the ins and outs of it if you want to discuss like how royalty splits are unfair, but that's just kind of the general.
Yeah.
It's the general thing. Yeah. But you know, we figure it out. I don't really know how else to articulate that the music industry is a scam. But it connects me, so I don't know. It's not a huge deal.
Yeah, your Supergiant record you put out with Atlantic, correct?
A subsidiary, right?
Schmatlantic.
No. Schmatlantic. So I don't think it wasn't Atlantic.
Okay, who was it?
I don't think we're in that. The label is called Roll Call.
Okay.
It's in partnership with Fat Possum.
Cool.
Have you ever heard of Fat Possum?
No, but all record labels are labeled in this ridiculous way.
I know. Speaking of, there's a possum that's been coming up on my patio and breaking all of my pottery on my patio. It's a fat possum. So anyway, that's just a side note. But yeah, we put it out with Roll Call. It's an LA-based like indie label that is like in conjunction with Fat Possum, which I think is out of Chicago, the Midwest, something like that.
It looked like you were trying to flex while saying Fat, which I think is out of Chicago.
Out of Chicago? I don't know. I have been pumping iron though. Now that you mention it, I wasn't gonna say anything, but like I do have some muscle.
These babies aren't sleeveless for nothing.
Exactly.
So we talked about the music business like taking from you, but these smaller indie labels typically are like pretty collaborative, pretty giving. What have these labels sort of done for you, or how has the music business helped you in a way?
They gave us an advance.
Okay. So
that helps,
yes.
And I'm more thankful for what they gave us now more than ever, because let me tell you, labels are not super hot to trot on signing people in 2020. Everything shut down, and we were like, well, we're gonna just make it on our own. We're really thankful for Roll Call because they gave us the ability to, we could clear out our schedules for a month and just make the record. They gave us the ability to do that, and we got to make it in a very insulated, contained frame of time. Whereas with the record that we're making now, it's completely piecemeal. It's like, when do you have time? Let's block out 3 days at a time to get this chunk done. which, there's not a wrong way of doing it. It's just a different experience in ways that we probably don't even know what difference that makes, but there probably is some difference that's going to be felt and heard in the final product,
For anybody listening who doesn't know, an advance is like a loan that's given to you and expected to be paid back over a certain amount of time.
Yeah.
What has the experience of why does the advance give you the ability to work for like a month straight versus piecemeal? Just like you just don't have the funds to record for that long at a time, so you save up. You just go through like smaller cycles of like save up, spend it all on recording.
Yeah, well, I mean, like, we were able to pay ourselves for the work the income that we weren't making in other places. It's like we all have jobs, we all have to figure out other ways of making money. And if there isn't like a third party giving you some kind of income, then you still have to generate income in other ways. Mm-hmm. So that's kind of the bottom line of that.
Gotcha. That makes a lot of sense. That's interesting. I have feelings towards advances just in general, so that's very helpful, like rounding information of like, yeah, that does sound super helpful, being able to like pay yourself off to like really focus for an extended amount of time.
What feelings do you have about advances?
I don't like loans.
Yeah.
I like to pay for things in full up front.
Yeah. I feel you. Yeah.
And that gives me power.
Yeah. That's true. I mean, yeah. There are pros and cons to each situation, for sure.
Exactly. Yeah. One, like, the way I do it is basically like I'm alone on an island, and I do have the purse, but the burden is more heavily on one person in that scenario. So
that's true. Luckily, and like the thing is like you don't know how a label is going to act until you're just in the thing with the label. So there's always an element of risk, right? And you don't know what demands they're going to make. I'm somebody, I don't like being told what to do, and I don't like changing my stuff. Yeah. Luckily, Roll Call was very cool about letting us do our own thing. I think because it was an indie label, there was only one song that he asked us to re-record to the original way, but I liked the original way better, so I was kind of like, cool. Nice. So yeah, it was like pretty painless, but I know, if people are going to give you a chunk of change, a lot of times it doesn't go down like that. And they are like, you're going to do it this way. And I don't respond well to that.
I imagine. With guns like those, I'm sure you don't.
Like these? Yeah.
You think you can boss this? You mentioned the toll of touring earlier, and like ignoring your thoughts during a tour. You toured with the Wild Reeds for a bit, and you currently do embroidery. Which who did you get that from?
Mac.
Yeah,
McKinsey.
I assumed.
Yeah.
What other habits, like positive, either tour or life habits, did you gain from them while like watching them on tour?
That's a good question. I think communication, and I don't know if they would agree with me on this. I mean, we're all trying to learn how to communicate, right? And communicating is really hard. I don't think I'm very good at it. Like, I think that's also kind of why I'm a songwriter. If I'm like going through something with somebody, I'm like, I can't say it. And then I'll just go I'll go write it instead.
Yeah.
I'm like, I still do that. I'm like realizing I'm doing that. I did that today. So like when you're on tour with people and it's like a little traveling family that you see from the moment that you open your eyes to the moment that you close them at the end of the day, you're just constantly around each other in very close quarters, in small green rooms, in small vans. I feel like they were really good about communicating with each other in a way where I was like, yeah, maybe we should do more of that. There's like a lot of things that can just go unsaid or unfelt or unprocessed, and it can turn into a fight later or some kind of misunderstanding. So communication. I always really like to exercise on tour, and the girls in the Reeds did as well. So we would exercise together. I mean, there's no better way of like feeling better than like one thing I would do is like when we would like go get gas, I would just put on my running shoes and I would just run around the gas station.
Yeah.
Like sprints.
Yeah.
Or do some kind of calisthenics thing. We would take a jump rope and I would jump rope, just something to get my heart rate up, because I'm going to be, when I'm in my body, I feel better. So that's a big tour tip that I always take with me on tour to exercise.
Yeah, that and nutrition are pretty giant. But also
that can get pretty gnarly on tour, the nutrition vibe, because you're getting like free meals, and like a lot of it's like it's gonna be burgers, it's gonna be fries, and I love both of those things. So yeah, nutrition crucial. Gotta hit the Whole Foods and get a cooler and put all your juices and all your vitamins and try the best you can. I ultimately always fail with that on tour, but nutrition for sure.
Yeah, with communication, is it stuff like my wife and I've been married 4.5 years. I look like a child.
Wow.
I'm not actually a child. I'm 29, but I'm aware that I look like a high school graduate.
Congrats! You're married.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I've almost been married for 5 years, so it's kind of, it's been a while. We have a good time. But
you made the commitment, which I think is in itself a really beautiful thing. And we like. I feel like I've learned good communication just through our relationship, saying things like, "Hey, earlier you offhandedly kind of said this. When you said that, it made me think you think this. Do you think that?" And then us being like, no, I do not think that about you. I think you're great. I think you're smart. And being able to like clarify and be like, okay, great. I just wanted to make sure that you said that out loud so that we like talked that through. On tour, was it that kind of communication, or was it something like other things? Yeah, I mean, I think maybe having those conversations, but just coming in really hot on it. Like, I noticed that you said this earlier.
Yeah.
Did you mean what you said? Like, just coming in super hot on it, you know?
Yeah.
And maybe asking the question, but the tone of it is like kind of like visceral.
Yeah.
You know? It's been a while now. I was going on like solo tours right before lockdown, so we weren't even touring as a band for a few months before that. But yeah, just like, yo, it's after sound check and we have some time to goof around. Can we go on a walk and talk about this thing?
Yeah.
Instead of it being this like moment where we're all in the van and it's quiet and nobody's saying anything, but you're like, there's something afoot.
Yeah.
Are we going to say it, or is it going to come out later? I don't know. I still don't really know how to communicate, but I'm like trying.
I think people would be amazed at how many songwriters feel like they're poor communicators, and that's like half the reason why people go into it.
Yes. Yeah, and I think they're really like, one thing I realize is like when I'm on stage, I'm like I'm kind of flamboyant, and I'm like saying whatever I want, and I'm speaking like I'm confident in what I'm saying, and like the stage gives me a place to do that, and that feels really good for me. But a lot of times in my interpersonal communication, I feel like pretty shy and pretty quiet. So there's a gap. There really is a gap. And yeah, that's definitely why I feel like I do that for sure. You're a songwriter. Do you feel that way?
Yeah, I mean, I thankfully chose a wife who has taught me how to fight in a really appropriate way.
Oh, yeah.
She is really good at fighting, like in fighting in like a fair way. I think that is one of the most important tools I've learned in the past few years of like,
Ooh.
like I am not, like when I have done something wrong, I used to cry all the time. And so like the other person would have to show me sympathy when really what that was a defense mechanism. I'm taking away their pain by bringing up my own. So like even my ability to stop crying while fighting and being like, hey, this obviously I have a lot of emotions and like I feel sad too, but clearly I'm the one that's in the wrong. So I'm going to say I'm sorry and I'm going to hold back my tears. And yeah, what do you need for me to make this better?
Wow.
Yeah.
I love fighting in a fair way. I think I come from a household where there was no fighting and there should have been more.
Yeah.
Things just weren't getting said that really needed to be discussed. And so I think I've had to learn how to fight because I think a lot of times, speaking about not feeling your feelings, if I bottle them up too long, then they explode.
Yeah.
I can start a fight in that way. But I really appreciate, you know, a friend was saying to me the other day, she was talking about this relationship she was in, and she was like, I just wish somebody would fight with me.
Yeah.
And I've come to appreciate fighting like very deeply the older that I get. I really appreciate somebody who's willing to go there with me. But this caveat of something you just mentioned, fighting in a fair way, there's a really fine line in fighting where it can get pretty stabby. And I think I still try to figure that out because I do have a silver tongue, and insults when I feel hurt can come flying, and I'm like, that's not fighting in a fair way. But I love that you brought up fighting. I think there's something really valuable in it, and it shows somebody that you're willing to show them, you know, instead of the silence or just not saying what's there can be really painful.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. And I think, like oftentimes people aren't fighting because they're trying to save some unrealistic caricature of their relationship. But that caricature doesn't even exist in reality. It's just like some show that you put on. And when you fight, you actually get to like live a better reality and like say goodbye to the past of like what you were and like be what you are.
And you get to love each other for what you are,
right.
And not like not this facade. The facade can become so much more painful than the fight itself. Yeah, I agree.
Speaking of fights and leaving, perfect transition to Supergiant.
Okay, well, dude, I don't know if I remember that song.
Oh, geez.
It's been that long. I'm sorry. I should have asked before.
No, you're good.
I feel very unprepared right now.
No, you're good.
Maybe we should do another one.
Great.
Another song. Is that
Go for it.
okay?
Yeah.
Okay. Singles, speeding down Santa Monica Boulevard. 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 S to see. Lives in all the books I read. Maybe I'd better need any doctor to tell me what the hell has happened to me. Not when this is the moment to be seized. We're all just waiting to be new. Well, I don't need any piece of paper to reach out my hands and get my hold on you. I really wanna hold on, yeah. I really wanna get a hold on, yeah. I really wanna get a hold on you. Oh, let me get a hold on you. When the traffic keeps moving, try as we might to not can't stand still. My heart is like a wheel. And you know that I try to keep on. I wanna keep on. Oh, let me keep on. I wanna keep on. Let me keep on moving. And I wanna keep on moving. If you watch, you see me move and watch me try to keep on and on and on and on and on. On and on and on and on and moving. If you watch, you see me moving. Yeah, try to keep on moving. Trying, but I really wanna hold you. I really wanna get a hold on, yeah. I really wanna get a hold on you. Oh, let me get a hold on you. Oh, well, when traffic keeps moving, strong as we might, you know, can't stand still. My heart is like a wheel. Oh, well, the traffic keeps moving. Try as we might, you know, I can't stand still. And my heart is like a wheel. You know, people are really getting a double performance with this because not only do they get to watch me perform, they get to watch me perform.
Well, I just cut myself out in those scenarios.
Oh, okay. It's like, wow.
Yeah, I always found that kind of awkward to like watch someone else because like, do you remember when at the beginning of COVID, everybody was doing Instagram lives and they would have on like two artists and one person would just watch the other person perform. It was awkward.
Yeah, I saw those. Yeah, it sure is. You just see what kind of audience member they are.
Yeah. But also it's just like normally when you're an audience member, you don't look interested for the full 4 minutes. That's not, you know, like that's okay. You can still enjoy music and not be like
that's kind of the beauty of it is that you just get to experience somebody else and you don't have to worry about you're having your own inner experience, hopefully.
Yeah, you're extremely good at stretching words and like inserting vowels where vowels don't live. Like the word still, stia-o-oo,
stia-o. That's so funny. Nobody's ever told me that before, but I do that. Yeah.
But it's I mean, one of my favorite bands is Coheed and Cambria, and they do that so much, and it's such a cool way. There's one song that says, if I had the way back, I'd ride through the dark and the dawn. And the way he says it is, if I had the way back, I'd ride through the dark and the dawn. And it's like, so like the backy I'd ride, like that, the like feel of it is so much better than if you were to just to say that. And I think that that's the sign of, like, one of the signs of a good artist is someone who's willing to bend the language in a way that's more emotive than what it exists as.
Yeah, how interesting. I think, there's really a lot to be said with inflection.
Mm-hmm.
And there's like so much you can express through how you inflect and what tones you choose.
Yeah. I pay attention to, like, especially when a word ends with a vowel. Like, you on your previous song, there's one note that was pretty high that ended with an R sound, and you held a high R for like a while, which is just, you just don't see it very often. So
Did
it's like,
I?
yeah,
I blacked
Yeah.
out.
We're like coming to the end, but I'd love to ask, I think we have time for like 2 more questions.
Okay.
What's a piece of bad advice you've gotten about your music career?
What's a piece of bad advice? I feel like I'm the kind of person that blacks out, I don't think back on things and be like, that was a bad thing to say. I'm always like trying to figure out what the good things were. But there's gotta be something. Legal, like sticking with people that take really long to do their jobs. I know that's like a very like logistical one, like really like people on your team that are super expensive,
mm-hmm.
and you're like at the end of their to-do list.
Yeah.
And you're like, I pay you too much to be at the end of your to-do list.
Mm-hmm.
But like they have some kind of sense of clout that you think that you need them, but you're not as important to them as they are to you.
Mm-hmm.
But you're paying them. Like, that's the thing, like, to talk about the scam is, like, it's so expensive to keep people on your team sometimes. And if they don't really care about you as much as you care about them, then nobody ever said, like, you should stick with, like, everybody on my team pretty much lets me do what I feel is right. But being encouraged to hang around for people that aren't really hanging around for you.
Mm-hmm.
I guess.
Yeah.
I'm sure after this interview ends, I'm going to come up with way better answers to all of these questions. That is what always happens.
I feel like that's a great answer. I love a practical answer.
Okay.
Yeah. Don't pay people who take forever to do their job.
Yeah. In any career.
Yeah. In anything.
Yeah. In anything. Yeah.
What has been, like, in the last year, something that you've really held close, and what's been something you've really avoided?
Right now, I'm holding rest time as something that's really precious to me. I'm trying to take conscious nap times. I'm not somebody that takes naps. I can't fall asleep during the day. I've got like monkey brain that's constantly going, and I'm not much of a meditator. Like, there's something about like a meditative pose that like stresses me out. I never feel like I'm meditating well enough, and like the whole time I'm like stressing out about doing it.
Yeah.
So what I've started to do is I've got a nice little patio out here, and I like set up my umbrella, and I like make a pallet on my patio, and I just lay in the sun with the intention of like just taking a nap. I never fall asleep, but when you have the intentionality of napping, that's already putting you in this state of like it's encouraging just chilling out.
Mm-hmm.
So that's something that I'm trying to take rest time as I'm trying to draw that closer, because when we're not constantly like zoop, 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 intake. I love information. I love podcasts. I love like taking in new information. But as an artist, I get pretty woo-woo, and I see artistry and creativity and really just being alive anyway is a pretty huge download from a lot of dimensions, to be honest. And I think when we take the time to slow down, we can listen to what's happening around us in a really sensitive way, and it fine tunes our spidey senses to where we're just like way more effective people and way more effective partners and friends when we take the time to just sit down and listen and let the sun kind of like absorb into our skin for a little bit. I'm trying to draw that rest practice in closer. One thing I'm trying to keep away, I'm trying to be less afraid of being like really radically vulnerable with people. I think I can get stuck in a facade of like what we were talking about earlier about fighting, like posturing that I am a certain way, and really constructing this whole avatar of myself, this like constant PR campaign that runs on the internet and off the internet about how I posture to be, when really like it's all avatars, right? It's not really what's going on. So I guess I'm trying to push away, trying to like fine tune this construction of my selfhood.
Yeah.
And just kind of just like be myself and whatever that is, because we're never going to really know what we are. And anybody that says like they know who they are is lying. And accepting that my selfhood is like, it's like pretty much a mystery, and it's okay if it's not presented to the world in this like finely tuned package, and people actually crave that from you so much more than they crave the avatar that you construct.
I agree.
So pushing that away a little. Yeah.
That's wonderful. Well, with that it's a wonderful way to end it. Natalie, you're so cool.
I think you're so cool, Connor.
I have really, really enjoyed talking with you. I think like, and by cool I mean like unique and a blend of like wonderfully different traits, and it's clear why you've like gone so far. You're like you feel very like go, but your music is so not that way at all, and it's just so cool what you're able to be in all these different spaces. And
well, thank you. And I appreciate you giving me the space to talk about myself. And it really means a lot to me that you like saw what I was into and brought up these authors that I really love. And that's like a form of compassion to me and helps me feel seen and encourages me. So thank you too. And I really appreciate that you reached out to me and just like talking about music and life and why we do it, and those are my favorite things to talk about. So